people have raised it, and this has happened. The reason why between 2013 and now, why we were not able, and 2017, why they were not able to make any progress on corruption is because the institutions failed them. And by the way, the failure on this one, I will not say is on the president or the deputy president. The failure in fighting corruption rests with EACC, which was doing a bad job. You see now that it has sort of moved to the DPP and the DCI trying to lend a hand to be able to fight corruption. And yes, there has been cases of selective prosecutions or cases where people have been prosecuted. The truth is, they have a 0% conviction rate, actually, except for people who are taking bribes. So yes, they want to fight corruption. But even today, I would say that the government needs to step up. The institutions that are charged with fighting corruption have to step up. And I have constantly said that they must have an airtight case. Because I have studied on the issues of corruption, because I have been there, I have been charged. And eventually, every single prosecution witness that they had was testifying in my favor. So how was that then a basis for charging somebody? So what we have said is have an airtight case. And I've said that many times, that the DPP must ensure that he has the sufficient evidence. He must have correct, lined up the correct witnesses which can assure him a conviction. In fact, in other countries, if you don't score as high as a 90% conviction rate, you are actually fired as a prosecutor. Fair enough. So those are what we've been encouraging. And I think it's those failings that sometimes people read. I cannot purport to know what was exactly in the deputy president's mind because I didn't read, and sometimes I prefer to understand the whole story. But I know,
that's fair enough.
I think because I think it's unfair to ask me what do you think he was saying. But I've said
surely
what I
you
think.
Support him. It's fair to say what you think. In any case, isn't that what you are lauding right now?
No,
the
I
two
do
groups
support him,
saying what they think. Fair enough. So, Honorable Wanga, let me rephrase the question to you in this way. You spoke at a market on the 8th of May. At a stop, and you said, naibu wa rais Bwana Ruto, tunataka ujiulize kwa nini kila mtu ambaye amepatwa kuiba mali ya wananchi anakimbia anakuja kwako na wewe ndio wapokea. Birds of a feather flock together, end quote. It suggests that you believe that the deputy president is one, not just shielding people who are corrupt, but that he himself might be corrupt. Is that your view, and that he is an impediment to the fight against corruption?
I think given the views that you gave, first of all, I support 100% the war on corruption, and I believe the handshake has created an environment within which the president can now fight corruption more aggressively. Because before, there were sacred cows, there was blackmail, I believe, you know, people saying, if you touch this one, we are crumbling, and the opposition is also on your neck. So I believe the handshake has done. And what I said on that day is exact truth, because at that time, you know, Waititu had been moving around with the deputy president. He was now caught. The Samburu governor was seen on a Sunday with the deputy president. He was charged. And then if you look at the pattern, for example, when CS Rotich has been charged now with this Aror and Kimwarer, you know, a very close ally of the DP, Oscar Sudi, you know, has hurled unprintables at the president just for making that move on charging for corruption. So what I was saying there is just what has been happening. Everybody who seemed to be touched with corruption appears to be an ally of the deputy president. Perhaps that's why he was saying on that Mombasa occasion that it's a political move. So he should ask himself, as I told him on that day, ask yourself, why are all these corrupt people just in your axis? Perhaps birds of a feather flock together, you know?
I think that's totally unfair, because if you look at it, Rotich was cabinet secretary for the National Treasury. Actually, in fact, if you look at one of the president's executive orders or statements from State House, he said that anything over 1 million shillings would be signed from State House. If there is anybody who had the closest working relationship with the head of state, was Rotich. Yes, and Thuge. In fact, the president has economic advisors within State House. And therefore, I don't think if you are to say that those people were close to anyone, it would be to the head of state.
No, I made a very specific,
and in fact, and to make it, and even to put it, these are people who work in a government where both The president and the deputy president are the heads.
No, but we know this government.
So no, allow me to explain. So I'm saying it's let's not, we cannot, this issue of bundling people, I say so and so is affiliated to so and so is affiliated.
The only reason I was suspicious was because Oscar Sudi, who is a very close ally of the DP, came hurling unprintables, things you would never say to the president, including asking the president to resign for charging Rotich. To be honest, okay. What would you conclude? Let
me ask both of you this then. So, because you both, what I'm hearing is that you both support the war on corruption. In fact,
I think
everyone does.
Every Kenyan does,
and in the way it is being carried out by the DC and the DPP. But do you believe that prosecutions alone, charging people in court alone, is enough to end corruption or to stop it? Or do you believe that there needs to be fundamental changes to the system that make it that much more difficult to have corruption take place?
I think first of all, there has to be amendments to the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, because that is what it creates room and funds room for corruption. We have certain types of contracts, standard contracts that this country has used throughout, and nobody has ever questioned them, yet they are the same ones that are being said to have been corrupt. So if we think that those contracts are bad, then we should amend the contracts. When we say, and one of the issues you'll realize that, and the reason why this issue came up, the same contract that was used in building the SGR and the same contract used in building the Southern Bypass is the same contracts that were used in building, I think, in Aror and Kimwarer and many others. So what we should be doing as a country, if we think as if the statement that was indicated by, I think, I can't remember if it was DCI or DPP who made the statement, he poked holes into the type of contract. So my question at that time was like, oh, then we need to make changes to the type of contracting system that we use as a country. I think also we need to strengthen the anti-corruption authority. And I also believe strongly that we must strengthen the DPP's office in order. It's not enough to charge people. Sorry?
In what way?
I think he's terribly understaffed, and they need to be getting more senior lawyers to be able to get involved in the fight, because some of the cases are so complex that you need finance experts. In others, you need banking experts. So you find that sometimes they grant this thing. And I am on record in Parliament in trying to ensure that they got more resources to be able to get more staff to do that. I think also the other challenges that we have is also the one on corruption. Another weak point is the judiciary. I heard that they're going to have, I think one of the cases, they're going to have 140 witnesses. Believe me, it's going to take 20 years minimum. I can guarantee that.
Fair enough. Ways to seal loopholes?
I think, first of all, we need political goodwill. The president has shown a lot of goodwill. The deputy president must show goodwill as well. Why? Because, you know, even this Aurora and Gilmorer, they almost collapsed just by attacks on the DPP and the DCI from his allies. So there has to be political goodwill from that end. Other than that, I think in this year's budget, there's been more funding to the agencies, the Office of the DPP, the Office of the DPI, the Office of the Auditor General. And one of the proposals we made as Embrace to BBI is to include, just like the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury reads a budget, every year, the Auditor General in April, before June when the budget is read, or is it July, the Auditor General in April should also read a statement on the expenditure of funds, in the sense that how did people spend the money that they were given, so that we also have that state of audit address by the Auditor General to Parliament, so that it's public, so that if your department misused the money, then when you come before a departmental committee asking for more, we'll ask you, first of all, see how you used your money before you move. So those are some of the proposals we made, including making economic crimes, some of these economic crimes non-bailable. Those are some of the proposals we made under women and the fight against corruption.
I'm sorry, I'm being told that we are out of time, and so it's quite no, madam, no. So unfortunately, I will ask these questions in quick fire in order to be able to just conclude this issue on women's representation, and I ask that you would answer them expeditiously so that we can be able to conclude on time. Let me start with you, Honorable Wanga. There is the feeling that even with what you have proposed in the executive, those positions created and 2 being specifically for women, and now we're talking about the women's movement in Kenya in general, that you are willing to play second fiddle. Why are we not seeing from either group this kind of notion that we are going to support a women candidate? The time has not just come for 50-50, but that women should be running for the top post.
Yes, women should be running for the top positions. Governors, president, governors, senators, all top positions should be. In fact, we are going...
Martha Karua seems to be one woman who intends to vie for the presidency. Is that something that women would women political leaders could close ranks on and say, yes, we would prefer a woman president for a change instead of a man?
I think you must realize about someone running for president, we can't just... I think it would be not... to say that I will just support a person because they are a woman. No, I will support someone if I know they are competent and their vision and their drive and their capability to take my country forward and meet the aspirations of Kenyans, then I will support them. It may be a man this time, it may be a man. If I get a woman later, I also support. So I think it's too blanket to say any woman who stands. You've got to represent something.
Any woman, and I'm not campaigning for. I'm just...
No, I'm just saying, the thing is she'll present her candidature, and if she's formidable enough and she convinces her that all those things that I've said, then we will support her. And I think it would be unfair for me not to be able to say something on this one. It's unfair to say that the deputy president is not does not have any goodwill towards the support of the fight on corruption. I think that is entirely unfair. The fact that he's people from his region or his allies or certain people have made certain statements, those are not the statements of the deputy president. Just the way I say I don't purport to speak for him, I don't think those other people are purporting to speak for him.
We are out of time.
Because it's also good to be fair to other people on air.
You have made your point. Again, if we would just return to the subject that we're dealing on now, which is about women in politics and how you are faring. There is a feeling that the women who are currently in the National Assembly, for instance, have pretty much argued the same as the men. And one clear issue has been when it comes to salaries. No single woman member of parliament took the position that no, the people of Kenya have said, regardless of what we think of our own, you may think of your salaries, they've said they don't want to see this increase. They do not believe that we deserve more. But on that issue, it was unilateral. And my question to you is this: do you believe the increase of allowances? Do you believe that women, for instance, should be required to be held at a higher standard than men in politics simply because there is affirmative action taking place to get more of them into government positions? Honorable Wanga.
I think women leaders are already held to very, very high standards. You have to work twice as hard to just get half the recognition. So women leaders are already really held to very, very high standards. For a woman to win a seat, men, you have to deal with issues of whether you're married, and if you're married, where you're married, and if you're married, it's a problem. If you're divorced, it's a problem. If you're single, it's a problem.
If you don't have children.
If you don't have children, it's a problem. So the standards are already very, very high, to answer your question.
But they expect that same high standard.
So I wish
how you debate in Parliament.
Yes, and women have done quite a bit of work in bringing legislation. And I think people sometimes say women are not doing enough. I mean, women are bringing this, Gladys Shollei chairs the committee on delegated legislation in Parliament. They have brought more reports than I think any other committee in that Parliament. And in fact, that committee, which was chaired by a man before, was like near dead. Right now, it is alive. It is the committee that brings more reports than any other. That shows you the strength of a woman.
Let me phrase it this
way. And other women have brought bills. I have a cancer bill in Parliament. Between Sabina and I, we have a bill on national health referral facilities. Sabina has a breastfeeding bill. You know, basic education and so on. And women have so many, a lot of work going on.
Let me ask it to you this way. Let me ask it to you this way, because you've talked about the bills and including the work that you do as a chair of a committee. I suppose the argument is when there were real, and I'm not saying that the cancer bill is not a national issue, obviously it is, but when there was other debate at very heated times in our history, like was it 2014 when we were dealing with, was it the security laws, or just 2017 when we were dealing with the electoral laws, that there had been perhaps an expectation that women members of parliament would not toe party lines, but would hold perhaps a higher standard. So what do you think of that? Is that fair to,
No,
to
I
require
think
that of
I've
you?
been watching the women's movement and women in parliament for a long time, and I've seen every parliament I see a great improvement. And in this time, having been watching it from outside, and this time that I'm in parliament and I've interacted with women, I think you might be surprised that we will get at least 50% of the governors as women. Because what has happened is they've been able to create their strength on the ground. They've been able to be seen, the visibility. And that's why I tell you now, even when we think about Inua Mama and Embrace, the great thing is that those women are beginning to show strength. And the ground is beginning to believe them as a formidable force. If you remember the people like... the deputy president, how did he come into politics? It's YK 92, you know. So these political formations are what, so we want to promote, and that's why I support these two movements, because they are promoting women on the ground. They are giving them visibility, so that next time when we say we want to feel, we look at Gladys. Gladys, definitely, I think she stands a great chance of becoming a governor for Homa Bay. Why? First of all, the fact that she has been able to be very vocal in her party. She has been able to be vocal in parliament, vocal as a politician, but she needed to go through that as a woman representative seat. So she got the affirmative action seat, but she did not waste it. She has used it as a good platform to profile herself, and she can move to the next stage, and we will get another woman who will grow like that. Hence the reason why the affirmative action programs are supposed to build women in order to make the electorate more confident in voting women the next time. Because that has been the challenge, that sometimes women, because they never actually get elected, they will never have visibility. But I think this is probably the highest visibility that I have seen in our politics.
They're just about to just go and leave us here talking. and I would love that, because I could talk to you both forever. And you know that. They can switch off the cameras. But finally, it's time to deliver your punchline. I don't know if it is to each other's movements or to whom. I will leave that up to you. But because you've talked about a gubernatorial possibility in the room, I'll ask you to comment on that. What's next for both of you? Are you eyeing a gubernatorial post, and what is your punchline?
Well, any politician without ambition is as good as a car without oil in the engine.
There you go.
So we are looking into the future.
Okay.
And, you know, as we say,
Gladys
kazi kwanza, siasa ni baadaye.
Okay.
So
I think I always believe that if you
gubernatorial,
sorry,
are your eyes set on being governor somewhere?
We will look at the seats and we will work on the numbers at that time. But right now, okay, because I'm not going to be a sensible person if I start announcing too early. What I need to do is I want to perform in my current position, because I know if I do to the best of my ability and the people of Wasingishu are happy, believe me, when I go there and ask for any seat, I'm going to get it.
Oh. And that,
so I have to perform first and get that. Thereafter, believe me, they'll hand it over to me.
That is certainly a punchline. I must say it has been especially wonderful
and
for me to host you both. Yes, to host you both. Clearly, two women who are no joke. I think it's in the name Gladys. Thank you for watching Punchline, another episode next Sunday at 9. I'm Ann Kiguta. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.